I'm Justin Jacobson. I'm an esports entertainment and content creator attorney in New York City. I work with both talent as well as professionals and companies that support individuals in the esports, video game, sports, music, TV, fashion, and all the other creative world. So I handle all legal and business matters for talent themselves. So musicians, professional athletes, pro gamers, streamers, coaches, casters, all the different people, as well as professionals and businesses that support them. So agents, managers, labels, PR people, celeb and glam stylists. So all these people that are really ancillary to these whole entertainment verticals. And a lot of my focus is intellectual property, so copyrights and trademarks, as well as contract drafting and review and licensing. And I do a lot of stuff in the business and corporate world, so LLCs and corporations, and really stuff with investments and kind of all the structuring there, as well as visa and immigration, where I help professional athletes and musicians and other athletes themselves come here to work. So really have that and handle all kinds of other issues. I'm also a professor and an author, so very involved in the esports and music and sports world in those capacities as well.
And so I mean, there's a lot to dive into on that, obviously. But sort of talk about like how you got started, like what made you want to get into like this entertainment law space? Like, how did you even know that was, or did you know that was sort of the path that you were going to take, or was that just kind of how it went as you were sort of navigating whether, the different aspects of either the industries or law in general? Like,
well, yeah, I think that I've always kind of knew I wanted to be involved in the entertainment and, the music space. And, I always loved sports. So definitely it was always cool to be able to kind of work on, the business side of that. So I always kind of knew that was a general path I wanted to be involved in. I didn't know whether it was to be working for a label, doing my own stuff. So, kind of knew that law school would give me unique knowledge, always kind of have me with, it's the lawyer on the phone, or like, kind of have this unique ability to look at things. So definitely found that was going to be beneficial, and kind of going in and having my own practice and all that was definitely something that just kind of made sense. Like you said, as I'm in law school, I kind of started to identify all the different areas where I could fit, and at the end of the day, this just kind of made the most sense, and it felt like something that was fit for me. It's definitely tough and not for everyone, and there's a lot of stress and work and grind that goes with it. And, that I guess is part of what makes it so desirable, is because it's not, easy to, do well and succeed and to sustain, even beyond succeeding, just kind of being able to sustain and do this is something that, takes a lot of, fortitude and drive, and understanding that not every single thing you do is going to be compensated. Learning how to build your own network, your own perceived value, people that understand what you can bring to the table. And, especially in the age of everyone's kind of putting it out there, where like, hey, you could Google, music record label agreement, and like, I'm not going to say you could probably use that, but like, you can't not use it. And now with AI, you can maybe take that and jazz it up and whatever. And like, I had a client that sent me his AI draft of an agreement, and it's like I took his 4-page thing and it became like 8 pages. I was like, this is nice, but like, this is like what you should use, and like, this is good because it gives me an idea of what you're thinking and what you think is important. Which again, I guess saves time and money, because instead of me being like, oh, do you want to do this? What's the terms? Like, okay, I made this AI draft and it has a stuff that I want in there: non-compete, non-disparagement, how I'm paying him, the basic info about the party. So now I don't have to ask for that, right? It streamlines the process a little. But again, my agreement versus what he had, it's like, there's a reason why you hire and pay me, right? There's a reason why he knew, like, okay, Justin, like, this is okay, but like, I need what you give me. And, that only comes with time and understanding and, building.
Yeah. Especially the entertainment space is built on relationships. And so I'm imagining, having those connections and, being connected to the different spaces and all of this sort of interconnects anyway, I'm sure is a big benefit to you as far as, someone being able to, as a referral, or whether it be you just having knowledge in different sort of spaces. Like, how difficult is it sort of navigating that, or since they are sort of all kind of interconnected, is it easier, sort of to be able to type of, I guess, branch off and do these sort of different areas? Like, so on one side you're doing music, the other side you're doing sports, the other side you're doing gaming. Like, is it all the same? Is it all, I guess, relative in their own little spaces? Like, how does all of it work?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that it's kind of like two-pronged. It's like starting in the more traditional music, sports, fashion world, like there's just certain principles, especially, I noticed a lot of similarities between like the music world and music law, and the way you build and brand and protect a musician is really similar to how you would do a content creator or a streamer, or a pro gamer, or anyone that's really trying to build. So I noticed a lot of the legal similarities, needing an LLC or corporation, immigration to come to a foreign country, trademark protection for your name, copyright for logos and designs, and, videos you're making and introduction songs. It's like there was just a lot of similar legal mechanisms. But then each industry has their own unique facets, right? It's like the music business and something in its own, understanding music publishing and royalties and master and sync licenses, and just like, the fact that there's 2 copyrights in a song, and understanding what that means for creatives and people that are trying to use the song. And, there's a whole world. And I think coming from that, and that really kind of being like the backbone of my, especially beginning of legal knowledge, it really gave me the ability to kind of do all these other areas, really understand, that, and be able to be an expert in that, and then bring that universal, right? Because I think at the beginning it was like rappers want to be athletes, athletes want to be rappers. Now it's like everyone wants to be fashion designers and fashionistas, and now everybody wants to be pro gamers and streamers and content creators. And it's like now you just see a synergy where, I'm working with professional athletes who are doing stuff in the gaming space, working with this gaming content creator who wanted to release some music and kind of, even just have original music for her videos and stuff, right? Like, why not eat on both sides? Like, get paid for using your own music in these videos that are getting a lot of streams, a lot. So it's like you're getting paid for the music and you're getting paid for the video. So it's smart if you can think about going beyond, like, oh, I'm just gonna use a stock random royalty clip of some like loop. Like, no, like, I'm gonna use my own music and I'll get paid.
I mean, this is sort of how Jams and Joysticks start. I do music, and so, it was another way to sort of kind of get my music out there while also being able to expand on my love for gaming and different things, and all of them kind of tie together. And so, videos that I use, I can use my music behind it, push it over here, do sort of different things over there. You kind of have to be that way now, especially as we sort of get in this more age of AI and all of these different things. Like, how is the law sort of, I guess, either keeping up with that or lagging behind, or like, how is all of that sort of working itself out, you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, AI and copyright and kind of name, image, and likeness and deep fakes, this is something that's kind of the cutting edge right now. I'm very involved in it, speaking on it, doing panels, because this is really evolving as we speak, right? There's, again, technology always moves way quicker than law and legislative bodies and courts and, all these mechanisms. So, AI is on level 12 while the legal stuff is on level 3. And it's like they're trying to figure out you have a lot of lawsuits pending, right? Everyone knows the New York Times one. And then there's, Universal Music that's suing people, and, Getty Images, and, George R.R. Martin, just like all these really famous journalists and authors and photographers and all these content creators that are having their stuff replicated by all these Gen AI programs and used for training data. And kind of maybe there's some inspiration there, maybe there's some copyright infringement based on how similar, like, there's a lot of issues there. So this is definitely something that, I've really kind of doubled down and really trying to stay a bridge on, and think it's something that's going to be really unique and important, is to understand the nature of the current events and the situation and see what could happen. So I think that's kind of what's unique about this, is that, obviously technology moves way quick. Right. And, us in the legal world are trying to stay up with it. And I've kind of evolved my contracts to include, language related to, if you're, say, a content creator. Let's say I have a client that's hiring a photographer or album cover person. It's like, hey, you have to disclose if you use Gen AI, you have to warrant that you have the rights, and that, like, if you get in trouble, like, we're gonna sue. Like, you have to kind of now have this new language in there addressing it. And I had to explain to a client, like, why this is here. What does this mean? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what is this all about? And again, you have to explain. It's like, hey, if you're hiring someone to make a logo, they might go in Mid-Journey and start plugging away and come out with something really cool. But if they don't have the right licenses and they don't have the ability to commercially sell it to you, then you can't use it like, this is where we come in, where it's understanding the rights you have and what's created here. And chances are you have no rights. And whatever rights they are might be clouded by whatever training data and scraping that has involved. So it's like, and then if you're actually going to try to copyright that work, you have to understand what was AI contributing, what was human contributed, because the way the law stands now is you can only apply for copyright protection to what's human contributions, right? There's like a really famous recent thing about a comic book where all the images were AI generated, but like the story and kind of the other, the elements of the images being cropped and edited were done by humans. So the copyright registration only applied to the non-AI parts. So the words and the positioning and the editing of the images, whatever you could say. But the actual images themselves weren't protected because they were created by AI. So I can see we can go take those images and put them on T-shirts, make posts, like do whatever I want with them because they're not protected, right? So it's like your copyright only extends to the words, the story maybe. So it's something to be aware of that. Like, hey, if you're hiring someone to do this, you might not own what they're doing because they don't even know that they don't even own it.
Yeah, that is very interesting for sure. Where do you think, as far, like you said, the law is late catching up, like where do you see this going ultimately? Because this is going to be a slippery slope kind of no matter how you really, go about this. I mean, you're going to have some people on one side who are, obviously going to be fans and say, and I mean, it is a time saver. It is, there are uses for it.
Yeah, I mean, Timbaland said, like, hey, man, you give me this, like, what I can do with this is like next level in such a short amount of time that, like, you give, and that's what I've learned, that, like, the next generation is going to be prompt engineers, people that can create these highly amazing prompts that, like, can give you, right? Timbaland can think of, like, I want a tropical salsa beat over a flute that every eighth note becomes a drum beat, like something so intricate, so elaborate that only his mind can conceive. And then the AI just like spits it out in 4 seconds. And it's like, boom, there's $100,000 beat that I made in 4 seconds.
As far as like the other medium, I guess the older mediums, like the clothing, the music and all of that stuff, a lot of these businesses are in flux as well, not just in the AI space, but like music as a whole, I just feel like it's just kind of in a whirlwind right now. It's just a whole bunch of stuff going on. Companies are suing this company. It seems like everybody's suing everybody at this point. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on. Like, where do you sort of see the landscape of a lot of the industries that you dabbling in? What's the temperature of all of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think regarding, AI, you definitely have laws, state laws, as well as federal and even international ones that are trying to kind of determine this stuff. Kind of, we've had, the Elvis law in, Nashville and Tennessee that really kind of expanded, name, image, and likeness protection to AI and kind of stopping AI replicas from using, people's name, image, and likeness, their name, their photo, signature, voice, etc., without their permission, right? So you kind of see laws trying to protect it and expand it. And then I think kind of from a creator side, it's like, how do you use this to your advantage, right? I've seen the ability of, licensing and actually making money, right? Like Timbaland went into a deal with, a music AI company, and he's probably going to license all his catalog and all his stuff and put it in there. And, now you can subscribe to the Timbaland inspired like production AI machine, and it's all licensed, and it's eventually and 5 other producers are going to jump on, and it's like how valuable is it going to be to have access to that, right? Is it going to be like, if you don't have that, how could you even compete? If people are spending X money and now they have access to the top 20 best producers ever, everything you want, and the ability to mix and match for licenses, and maybe they get cuts of royalties, and it's all done like, hey, like, this is all licensed. It's all derivative works. It's all based on it. Now let's make money. And again, wouldn't you rather have like a percentage of a stat, like something that's like created from that, that's going to be amazing?
Right.
And who knows what could happen. So I think that you're also seeing the ability for, if you're maybe a talent, to be able to harness this, where it's like, say you're doing a 3 commercial deal. Now it's like, oh, well, I'll do 1 commercial and I'll let you make 2 AI versions of it, right? Where you can put new products and new backgrounds and put me in new clothes, right? And it's like AI could take your footage and really just replicate it if they have your authority, right? And enough of whatever source material they need.
And you would be getting paid less, but you would have to do less work.
Exactly, right? So it's like you'll get a little bit less money, but now you, instead of do 3 photo shoots, you only have to do 2 1 photo shoot, right? Like, so now you could do 3 other deals, right? So maybe you'll make this one, but you could do more and be more efficient with your time, which could make you more money than if you had to be doing, 3 shoots for. So there's a lot of positives, but again, it's really kind of understanding how you can use it and how this can be beneficial to you. And it's, now you have the Copyright Office that also released like their manifesto. So they did a part 1 analyst, and they just did a more updated one where they looked at all these scholars, had all of these people submit briefs, and really kind of gave you this treatise on the status of it and what their conclusions are, and essentially what the laws and the courts have agreed on so far and what their principles are. And, again, you're having them, the Copyright Office, right? The people that are in charge of copyright law in the US take charge of this, understanding that they need to devote, hundreds of hours, if not more, to figuring this out, to being on top of it, to essentially ushering the policy as it relates. Because as you mentioned, we've only hit the tip of the iceberg. It's only going to get faster and better, and computing powers are going to go up, and AI is only going to get more refined and better over time, right? ChatGPT 22 is going to be better than ChatGPT 5. And you have people at the highest level of government understanding this and trying to be on top of it. Then you have the courts, and when you have big power players, right? You have New York Times and Warner and Sony against Google and Meta and all of these mega powerhouses. Things happen, and it's we're gonna see how it draws out. I have my suspicions on how it plays out, but we'll see.
One thing I've been kind of interested about, how does like the whole, especially within esports, like you have a lot of teams or whatever that have players that are from other countries and they have to get visas and all of this different thing. Players might be from Saudi Arabia, Europe somewhere, how does all of that work? If you're here in the States, like you really not kind of dealing with this sort of thing.
So in order to earn, an income in the US, if you're a non-US citizen, you need a visa. So essentially, you can come here for travel and vacation. That's a different kind of visa. But if you're coming here to work, whether it's competing in a tournament, do a sponsorship appearance, anything where you're getting compensated to do it, you need work authorization, right? So essentially you would have to apply to the US government, the USCIS, and you fill out an application, you submit certain evidence, and, then they review it, and there's, they hopefully approve it, and then you kind of go to the consulate in your country and you kind of get the visa and the approval, and then you kind of come over here. And, obviously that's a really simplified version of the process.
I was just going to say, just from the simple point of like, if it happens that way, I mean, congratulations.
Well, no, that's how it should happen, right? But again, the evidence that you have to submit is pretty substantial. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is that, and if you come in, and the big problem is if you come here and do something, get paid, and, you don't get it, and now you're trying to come back and do it again and get it. If they figure that out, which, usually they can, you're going to be a violation of status. It's going to be a much bigger thing. It's going to be much more costly to get back in if you can. So it's like, depending on the severity of it, like I've had clients that came in here for months doing some shows, whatever it is. And it's like you really can't do that stuff. Like you can't compete in this tournament. And, a lot of the operators are not going to disperse the money to you. Right? They're like, hey, we need to see, you want us to give us to your bank in Sweden? Like, did you have your visa? Authors it? Like, they're not going to give you that money. So you are kind of messing yourself up both ways. And I think that, again, like I simplified it, we're talking about process that's 4 to 6 months, if not longer, depending on, if you do expedited, which essentially kind of almost doubles it. And, it's like, there's like a $2,500 expedited fee, but gets you an answer in, 2 to 3 weeks, as opposed to the non-expedited one that 4 to 6 or however many months it takes. And again, for people that are making a lot of money, like $2,500, like that, you just need it. Doesn't matter. It's just a cost of business. This is part of it. And that's where I've seen a lot with the esports stuff is that like sometimes it costs so much to get it. You go to this tournament, you lose, and you're dropping the team anyway, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's so unique. And that is one of the biggest issues that I've kind of encountered from my side, where it's like working on a visa. And then while we're still waiting, staying too expedited, they drop the team, the players get whatever it is. And it's like, we don't need a visa anymore. Like they just wasted all this money on it for no reason. So it's,
that's crazy.
Certain organizations are trying to, petition and talk to government officials about a unique kind of visa specifically for esports athletes and competitors in it. It's a little bit more tailored, a little bit more flexible, that doesn't kind of have the same constraints. Because right now everything and, the art of it is that we're really kind of looking at, using professional athlete visas and trying to like take the terms that, if you say you're going to be drafted by an NBA team or an NHL team and you're coming to the US, that's kind of the visa we're getting. That's kind of for those kind of athletes. Sometimes there's an O1 visa that's more for like, more extraordinary athletes and musicians. It's a higher level. But again, most normal up and coming gamers are not going to probably satisfy that one. So we usually go for the one that's more like a professional athlete and trying to fit some of these criteria into this. It doesn't necessarily have it. Like I remember we were working with some, Rainbow Six players when like the pro league was starting. And it was like, there's no information on the league and the spot. Like it was like, we had to like get really creative and talk about the teams that are in it and their sponsors and their investors and try to highlight, if these amazing teams like Team Liquid that have Michael Jordan and Steph Curry as their investors and, McDonald's and Mercedes and Red Bull as their sponsors, then obviously this is important and this is real. And, we really had to get creative with it. So that's why you see a lot of these issues with, esports teams, players getting rejected. I know Moist Esports was very chronicled about his issues that he had trying to get players over. So that's something that I know people in the industry are really looking at because it is a hurdle and it does make it more difficult and tougher to have events here, which impacts, the industry that we're trying to grow. So it's something that I think is important. And it's not something that's really talked about, but considering, like you said, it's so international and, players from all over the world competing, we need a little bit better of a system to make it happen. Something that's not so cost prohibitive and so timely that it becomes irrelevant by the time you get it.
Your book is called The Essential Guide to the Business and Law of Esports and Professional Video Gaming. What, I guess, prompted you to write it, first off, but secondly, just kind of talk about it a little bit and sort of what people will be reading. They pick it up.
Well, I kind of felt that there was a pretty big knowledge gap, especially kind of from more of the legal and business side of, these industries, and felt that there's only so many people that really could speak on it from this level and this lens. So I kind of really took it upon myself, thanks to the COVID inspired lockdown time that I was now permitted to kind of go at it. And it was really kind of like, I was like, let me write a bunch of articles and I'm just going to give all this information. I was like, you know what? Why don't I just make it into a book, right? And it was just like, these are things I'm going to write about anyway. I might as well just do it and just, instead of piecemealing it out, I'll just, bring it together. And I think that was really important why, esports and professional video gaming, where I kind of look at as, esports as the competitive side of, gaming, these, CSGO tournaments and Overwatch League and the, League of Legends, etc. And then the professional video gaming side to me was really critical to highlight is people that are kind of using video games as a profession, as a career. So maybe you're not a competitive gamer, but you're a streamer or a coach or a caster, or you own a team, or you own, tournaments, you operate events, or you maybe are a production company supporting these kind of events, or, we've seen attorneys and accountants and PR companies and just a whole plethora of businesses just supporting these games, supporting this video game ecosystem that aren't esports solely and that wouldn't be fitting into the competitive lens. So I really wanted to kind of make sure that it really encompasses them, because I think that that's a crucial, if not, really a larger part of it, right? Is the video game sphere is bigger than esports, right? They always try to compare gaming to music and sports and fashion, where it's like, yes, the video game industry, gaming is a massive beyond massive, but esports is a portion of that. It's in the
small
gaming
portion
space.
too.
Yeah, exactly. A very small portion. But again, it's valuable and unique, and it deserves its own world because it is that, but it's within this bigger bubble. And there's so many ways to be involved in a professional world, and that's kind of the idea. So really kind of looking at, you know, the ecosystem of esports and how everyone makes money, and then really looking at some chief legal issues, so copyrights and trademark protections, you know, business and LLCs, you know, visas and immigration. So obviously, you know, the kind of things we covered. So the kind of information that might be contained in an application, the types of evidence you might submit, really kind of giving you the game plan and how to kind of apply for this stuff. And then kind of looking at, you know, some unique potential tax write-offs and business expenditures related to this vertical, understanding that there's a whole financial world built around this, right? I've had clients that, like, they went to their regular accountant and, like, he completely massacred the taxes. Then they went to these, you know, individuals that more specialize in these gamer, streamer, you know, content creator worlds, and they did a much better job because they understood the industry. They understood what could be written off and how to do it and how to structure it. And that becomes a specialized knowledge. So really kind of highlighting that. And then I think that what makes it most unique was kind of going through these sample player contracts and coach contracts and sponsorship agreements, and really kind of explaining different clauses and how they apply and some negotiation tips. And that's really something that really wasn't out there at all. You know, like I said earlier, you can Google, you know, production agreement and co-publishing and record deal. And yeah, maybe not going to get Sony or Warner's record deal. Things you could piecemeal together and make something. Is it going to be as great as what I have? No. But is it going to do really what you need for the most part? Maybe. You know, it might not be tailored to do exactly what you need and explain what you want, but is it probably usable, and is it better than nothing? Probably. You know, like, as a lawyer, I'm not going to tell you, yeah, just Google some stuff and use what you find. Because that's not sound advice. And, you know, every deal is different and the way you structure. So it's like whatever you find might be a good starting point, but it's probably not going to do exactly what you want. Definitely not going to be as comprehensive. And, you know, it might not be as updated, right? Like, you're not going to find something about Gen AI and the use of, you know, AI and copyright material and engineering and stuff out there. I mean, if you do, let me see. I'd love to check it out. But, you know, I think that, you know, that's going to be another thing. So I really kind of wanted to use the book as a vehicle to bring some of that stuff out there and let people that are maybe looking at this, whether you're a player that's maybe trying to negotiate your deal, or, you know, I've had agents and managers that are like, oh, well, I learned a new thing that I use in my agreements from you. Like, you know, the concept of this, you know, marketing guarantee that, like, they never put it in there before. And I suggested it and they accepted it, and boom, you know, that changed my negotiations. And it's just like, that to me made writing the book worth it. Was that a practitioner found value and was able to actually use that to make money, right? Like, that to me is what's valuable. Is like, now you understand how and why I should trademark my name, trademark my gamer tag, you know, make sure I have an agreement with the logo designer for my cool logo. Like, understanding that value is, you know, the book, right? And then it kind of ends by looking at, you know, social media disclosures and, you know, hashtag ad, and how this is kind of now really crucial when you're doing live streams, you're doing live content, you're putting out all these, you know, realistically, most of these creators, gamers, influencers, like athletes, musicians, that's where they make money, right? From brand sponsorship, right? Every Dunkin' I go into is Sabrina Carpenter with her shake espresso. It's like, she's making way more money from the Dunkin' Donuts deal than she probably made from anything else. She probably has some posts of her drinking it and shaking it in the store, and you will see her hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored, all that stuff. And this is the new marketing, right? It's not TV and ads, not newspapers, it's not magazine.
But to close out, man, like, how would you like people to, you know, reach out to you, find you if they want to get some legal advice, want to throw you a boatload of money, you know, whatever the case may be?
Boatload of money, send it this way. I accept Zelle, credit card, cash, check.
That's right.
Well, my website is JamsandJoysticks.com, JamsandJoysticks.com. A lot of articles, my contact info, all the kind of things I'm involved in are there, the book, etc. And, follow me on all social media platforms, Justin J ESQ. Try to connect with anyone. So if you have questions, I'm happy to try to connect and see how I can help you. And I'm always looking for, new clients and people to work with. So if it makes sense, reach out and I'll be happy to see if it makes sense.